This is a walkthrough of a 2019 Flying Cloud Airstream, the 23-footer with the corner bed. I've made a lot of modifications to it in the past year and just recently got more done. So I wanted to update my friends about my space, but also just hopefully give some good ideas to Airstream owners about some upgrades that they can do on their Airstream as well. And feel free to ask me questions on my YouTube channel. I'll be happy to answer anything or direct you to people who might know more. So starting with the top, I'll hold this up for a second. I'm not very tall, but I've got 4 solar panels up there mounted on there. I've got the Dish satellite TV. I've got an air conditioner. I've got a WeBoost antenna that boosts cellular connection. I've got an AT&T Wi-Fi antenna with an AT&T data plan. I've got a radio antenna, and there's a couple of sunlights up there and a couple of fans to keep the air circulating when it's warm out. Back here on the back, I've also got a rear view camera, which projects to a monitor in the car. So whenever I'm towing, I can see what's happening behind me when I'm driving or backing into a space or whatever. So that's a nice, huge feature when you're trying to do that by yourself and you don't have someone directing you in the back of the camper. One modification I made that they said they're going to start pitching to other people is adding a couple of these hooks to the trailer. These hooks are the same, just to stay on brand, as the hooks you'll see up with the awning up there, the Zip D hook. It's the exact same item, and then they just rivet it into this beam here, so it's super secure. And this is what I use to keep my dog on leash. Before that, I was tying his tether to the front door handle, and it was starting to scratch up everything, which I knew it would, but that was the best solution I had. So that's going to resolve that. I've got another one down here on the front end, so just depending on where I'm parked and how much space I have, well, I can pitch him in one spot or the other, and he loves it. He doesn't get really tangled up there. The closer he is to the steps, sometimes he'll get tangled up on the steps, so I like having him right in the middle of the camper there, and he can still get inside if he wants to. A couple more things on the outside. I've got a Honda generator, a 2200i, and honestly I only have used it a few times in the past year. I've got so much solar that I never need it, and I do a lot of boondocking. So right now I'm plugged into city power, but that's not very common for me. So I thought I would need the generator. I probably didn't. In the battery compartment, I upgraded to 2 lithium batteries, and then I later upgraded to 2 more lithium batteries, so 4 total, and the other 2 are inside under the dining room seat. And lithium batteries don't off-put gases, so they can be inside or outside, and they also don't need maintenance, like you don't have to add water to them or anything like that. So they're way more expensive, but totally worth it. I never run out of power, and that's a huge problem if you're camping a lot, which I do. In here are your 2 propane tanks, and then it's got this jack that in the old days you'd have to hand crank. This is just a power jack, so you can go up or take the trailer up or down to level it or to hitch onto your tow vehicle. And I am a huge fan of this lock. Everyone should have a lock on their hitch so somebody doesn't just come up and drive away with your trailer. And I really like the steel one. It's got a key spot down on the underside, but there's no cutting through that or getting that off. I I do also have a couple of tire locks. I never really use them, but it's always good to have two if you're going the tire lock route, because you could just take the tire off if you only have one. Like there's a spare tire under the trailer. Someone could just take your tire off, put on the spare, and then drive off. So if you have two tire locks, they can't do that unless they brought their own spare. And I'll talk about how I've added more windows in a second. You might notice that as we go, if you're really familiar with this model. I love that Airstream has showers on the outside of their vehicles. That's awesome for like showering off dirt from the beach, washing dogs, cleaning coolers. You know, if you're out in private in the woods, if you shower outside, you're not filling up your gray tank. The water can just go onto the ground. So that's great. And then I use these coal filters to filter the water, and that makes the water just a little safer. But what I like about it is it makes the water pretty much taste about the same everywhere you go. I think it's really annoying to have a different water taste everywhere you go. So to me, that's the huge benefit of those, is it helps kind of eliminate different tastes and odors of the different water systems when you're traveling. So that's cool. And then like I said, I'm into the city power grid here. There's also cable TV, which they offer here. I'm just not plugged into it. Some places will offer different channels and stuff if you could plug into their cable network. But I've got my own DishTV, and I don't really watch a lot of TV, so I'm not using it. And the rear bumper has some storage. I like to keep tools. I like to keep my tow bars in there. Just little odds and ends that it can get wet from weather, so it can't be anything that has problems getting wet, but it's a great little storage compartment. And then in the trunk, there's a big storage compartment that goes under the bed. It's rather large, actually. And that's another great spot for things you don't really need to access that often, or things that are, more weatherproof, or they don't mind the cold or whatever. I keep like a swimming tube and fire starter and things like that, more playthings in there. And as I start to go inside, I want to show you the front door. Now, the standard front door has a frosted window, so you can't see in or out for privacy. I don't really understand the purpose of that when you have windows all over the place. And it also, there's so few windows on this side of the trailer versus the other side, that when you frost that up, it really cuts down the amount of light and pleasant views. So I had them remove the frosted and go with the regular clear tint, so I can see outside now, especially because I like to sit right there. So it's a great view for me. I'm probably going to remove this. I know it's so you don't accidentally bump into that screen and tear it, but I've never bumped into it once, so I think it's safe to remove that, and that will open up the view even that much more. Okay, so here comes some cool stuff. Here's the dinette area when you first walk in. Lots of changes here, but the standard model has a huge wedge pillow here that serves absolutely no purpose. It's not back supportive or anything. It's a waste of space, so I had them remove that and build this, what I like to call a landing pad, just like you have at your house. When you walk in the door, you won't have a place to take off your shoes and drop your keys and have your dog stuff. So I've got all of that here. I keep my shoes down there. I keep my Dexter stuff here, my dog stuff here, his leash and everything. I like to put my flip-flops right there. I've also got this towel for wiping Dexter's feet if he's coming in from the outside and it's kind of muddy. And then this compartment opens up, and there's just like a junk drawer for, I keep like a flashlight there, some odds and ends. And then there's, I don't actually get into this too much, but it's some like extra dog bags and things like that. And then in this space over here, it goes all the way down, so it's a really deep storage compartment. I actually don't have anything in there right now, but I'm sure a lot of people could think of a million uses for a big space in an RV. This window above the door I had added. It was not, doesn't come standard with the Airstream. Any space where I could add a window, I went ahead and added a window. You can't put them everywhere because of the rivets and the seams. I can't think of what they're called. Airstream comes with a great radio system. There's a subwoofer down here. Great audio system all around, but I personally don't really use that very often. Up here is a couple of storage compartments. I put games and books and art projects up there. And in here, when you buy the Airstream, they've got a couple of these things that come with it, and then they encase it in like a built-in shelving system. And it looks okay, but the problem with that is you can't reach in there and you can't plug anything in. You can't access the backside to tighten wires or anything like that. It's the craziest thing. Like, I don't know why they do that. So I crowbarred it all out and then just installed a simple rack and stacked all of my devices and just used Velcro to keep them together, and they don't move at all. It's really solid, but I can also take them apart and I can also easily access, look at all these cables, like it's crazy. But now I can actually access them, and they plug in. I've only got plugged in the ones that I've been using, but I like to mark, because there's so many cords, I like to mark what's what going into the power strip here. And I've got Apple TV, I've got PlayStation, I've got a DVD player, I've got my satellite TV, and I've got a switch that toggles between these things, so the TV knows which thing to display. And then I've got my Wi-Fi router here that I just mounted up against the wall, so it's kind of out of the way. And then I keep batteries and more junk drawer stuff in here, extra sets of keys and that sort of thing. There's also a cord for a DC battery. I'll show you that real quick. I try to use DC as much as possible. I rarely turn on my inverter for AC power. So it accesses the batteries directly for DC. And it's just much more energy efficient for me to draw on the DC than to turn on my inverter so I get AC. It just sucks up a lot more of my power. So Airstream provides this. It's got a couple of these connections, and I use this to charge my iPad and my phone all the time. So it's not very pretty when it's out, so I keep it tucked in. Dexter's getting in a dog fight. There's some storage underneath that I personally keep, like my owner's manual for the Airstream, all of my electronics manuals, all of that are in there. And then I also keep my personal files and stuff like that, all fit in that space for me. It comes with some side compartments here underneath the sink. And this is Dexter's drawer. Got all of his treats in here. And this is just my odds and ends drawer. I keep a bear spray, both for bears, but also great for intruders. You can grab that and blast them. Probably will never happen, but I got that. And you can see it's got a TV here. More outlets all around. Charging my Apple Watch right this second. It's got a fan to, if it's really hot out, you can hit this and it will boost the fan power in the refrigerator to help keep it cooler. This is a huge addition to the Airstream. So when you buy this model of Airstream, normally this couch goes all the way across to the wall. To me, like, that was a useless waste of space. Dexter. And nobody really sits like that. Like, who's going to sit in a row like that and sit across from the sink? So I had this bench chopped right there, and then added a lot more pantry cabinets. So in here I store a lot of my boxed goods, non-perishables, cereal, canned food. I've got Dexter's food. I've got paper plates and cups if I ever need those, just that sort of thing. Down on the lower end I have just more storage for like extra things that I don't need right now or won't need soon.